What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. I am DJ, aka Token Black Guy. If you're here for the first time, hit that like button, subscribe button. So, posting this video probably up Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning means Ahsoka is premiering tonight. So, we watched one video with New Rock Stars and did a little recap of season 1. But this is a complete everything you need to know before Ahsoka. This is from Screen Rant channel. So we'll watch a little breakdown of this. It's about, I don't know, we'll see what he says and gives a more knowledge of what we need to know before Ahsoka. Like I said, I'm a slightly above average Star Wars fan. Don't know every little detail about characters and everything. So it's a good little thing to get to know the ins and outs of Rebels and Clone Wars and Ahsoka, her story, and how all these characters are going to tie in together in this series. So let's check it out. Here we go. I'm actually excited for the show.
We have a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Once a rebel, always a Screen Crush.
Hey, welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and I am here to recap a lot of Star Wars.
I think that's a Screen Rant intro. It's actually Screen Crush.
I'm going to talk about the entire series of Star Wars Rebels and the histories of Thrawn and Ahsoka Tano. Basically, this is everything you need to know before watching
this. This is exactly what I need before this series starts.
If you are only here for the Rebels recap, the chapter is marked below. We have a lot to cover, so let's get
to it. Watch everything.
Old legends.
Want to learn it all.
Stories told to us as younglings in the temple.
There's always a bit of truth in legends.
Ahsoka was born in a small village on planet Shuli. Ahsoka showed Force sensitivity.
I remember that, and that was the
Years later, she was adopted into the Jedi Order by Master Plo Koon. Soon after this, the events of the Phantom Menace happened. After evil space teams invaded a planet with robots, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi saved the life of the Queen of Naboo, Padme Amidala. And then they get sidetracked.
Yeah, I like getting the timeline so I can figure out where things take place.
Unbelievably powerful with the Force.
The cells have the highest concentration of midi-chlorians.
The long neck aliens always are creepy to me.
Hey Doug, I'm gonna have some lunch. Do you want some?
Yeah.
Person, don't eat that raw packet of ramen like it's one big cookie.
Yeah, I think I skipped an important step here, but I really hate cooking.
There has to be a better way.
Now, back to what I was saying. So they take Anakin back to Coruscant, the capital of the Galactic Republic, where the Naboo crisis leads to a new chancellor being elected.
I will say, I like how he does little things at the bottom of this channel, like little footnotes and everything. It's a good explanation.
Sheev Palpatine. Meanwhile, the Jedi are worried about the re-emergence of the Sith, their sworn enemies who use the dark side of the Force. Anakin immediately takes a shine to Padme. Qui-Gon
Jar Jar
a Sith
Binks.
Lord named Darth Maul. Obi-Wan gets his revenge, and then promises to save Anakin. But more on that later on, because now we have to go to the unknown regions of the galaxy. So this is going to get a little bit technical for a second, but this is important. Ships in Star Wars navigate through a kind of subspace called hyperspace, using super advanced computers that chart through the galaxy, kind of like Han explains here.
Without precise calculations, we'd fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova and then it'd end your trip real quick.
Now, it has been theorized that hyperspace is somehow tied to the Force itself. The earliest hyperspace travelers developed the technology because they observed space whales called Purgil using the Force to travel.
I know those are going to come back into play.
It's also thought that early Force users or Jedi were responsible for navigating hyperspace before the technology existed to allow them to do so.
Sorry, man,
but the unknown regions are nearly impossible to navigate because thousands of years ago there was some kind of natural disaster that actually fractured hyperspace, creating dangerous pockets called the Chaos. People who live in the unknown regions use Force-sensitive people called navigators to quickly sense their way through this chaos.
Yeah, I did not remember any of that.
Are totally separate from the rest of the Star Wars galaxy with different races, technology, and customs.
Gotcha.
Oh my God.
So, back to Star Wars. The major power in the unknown regions is called the Chiss Ascendancy, a very secretive, advanced, and cautious government that rules many, many planets. Now, the Chiss are also a highly political culture ruled by various families.
Yeah, I didn't know any of his background stories.
One Chiss, named Mithral Nerodu, or Thrawn for short, is probably the greatest military mind in Star Wars. Thrawn is able to understand a culture's battle tactics by examining its art.
To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not simply their battle tactics.
This is true.
Their history, philosophy.
That is very true.
And unlike most Star Wars villains, he highly values life, even saying in one novel that all life has a purpose. Now, back to the greater part of the galaxy. 10 years after Qui-Gon's death, where the Sith Lord Sidious has taken on a new apprentice, former Jedi named Dooku.
Everybody knows.
He instructs him to lead thousands of worlds into seceding from the Republic. Anakin is now a brash, promising young Padawan who falls in love with Padme, and if he acts on that love, he would get expelled from the Jedi Order.
Yes.
It's not fair.
War breaks out between the Separatists and an army of clones created for the Republic, which are
The
led
Clone
by Jedi
Wars.
Knights. Palpatine is given new emergency powers as Anakin and Padme marry in secret. After these Clone Wars start, Anakin is made a full-fledged Jedi and is assigned a Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka, like her master, is headstrong and a little annoying when she's younger.
You're stuck with me, Sky Guy.
But as the two of them fight together throughout the war, they mature and their powers grow. Now, during the Clone Wars, the clones start off as cookie-cutter copies of one another, but eventually they start to develop their own personalities and nicknames. Ahsoka gets very close to a commander named Rex, leader of Anakin's personal clone squad, the 501st.
The Republic couldn't have asked for better soldiers, nor I a better friend.
And she becomes friends with another Padawan named Barriss Offee, who, unlike Ahsoka, is a real stickler for the rules. A major attack occurs on a planet called Ryloth, where a Twi'lek freedom fighter named Cam Syndulla fights off the Separatists so the Republic can occupy their world. At a certain point during the Clone Wars, his daughter Hera salvages a droid named Chopper, and they become best friends.
And help me put this panel back together.
Yep, that main character's gonna be in Ahsoka.
Really? You won't be working much slower than you normally do.
Now,
Chopper's
while the
funny
Clone
as
Wars
hell.
rage on, something major happens on Mandalore. The Mandalorians are a very warlike people, and their wars turn their planet into
I'm
a
like,
wasteland.
now I'm getting
They
a
build
better
super powerful, invincible armor made
understanding
out
of the
Beskar,
timeline of
passed
all
down
these
to
shows
families
taking
for hundreds
place.
of years.
That's
Armor
always been
made
the
with
problem I
fame
had
and
with Star Wars. I don't know
lightsabers.
where
But now,
things
for
take
several
place and
years,
don't
they
take
have been
place.
pacifists, and they have chosen to remain neutral in the Clone Wars. But the Republic suspects that Duchess Satine is working with the Separatists, so they send Obi-Wan Kenobi to investigate. Who fell in love with Sabine when they were teenagers, and he even tells her,
"Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order."
but out in the galaxy, Darth Maul has survived his Haven, and he is plotting revenge against Obi-Wan Kenobi and his former master, Darth Sidious. Now, Maul is from planet Dathomir, which is inhabited by powerful dark side users called the Night Sisters. He makes an alliance with Death Watch, a Mandalorian warmongering terrorist group who oppose Satine. Maul, his brother Savage Opress, and Death Watch unite various crime syndicates into a force that retakes Mandalore, and then he murders Satine right in front of Obi-Wan. Maul then wins the Darksaber in a duel, making him the leader of Death Watch and all of Mandalore.
Wait, what's a Darksaber?
I don't remember that.
Darksaber is an important Jedi/Mandalorian artifact, and some Mandalorians
See, I'm getting
believe
so
that
much
whoever wins
information
that
right now.
Darksaber in combat is the rightful ruler of the
I'm glad I
world.
watched this video.
Stupid. That's the rule.
Members of Death Watch then split off into different sects, including one called the Children of the Watch. These are religious hardliners who rescue a young boy named Din Djarin from Separatist droids. Ahsoka also trained a young partisan named Saw Gerrera, who watched his sister die in battle, and he swears vengeance on the Separatists for causing her death. So, during the war, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan travel to a strange Force world called Mortis, inhabited by beings called the Sister, the Brother, and the Father, who represent the good side of the Force, the dark side, and the balance between the two. This is also when Ahsoka starts to dual-wield her lightsabers, which makes her even more awesome. Very, very long story short, Ahsoka is killed, but then the sister gives her life essence to keep Ahsoka alive. After this, Ahsoka has a mystical connection with an owl named Morai, and she sort of becomes the embodiment of this sister figure and the good side of the Force. Padme then disappears on a mission in the unknown regions, and Anakin heads off to rescue her, and that is when Anakin crossed paths with Thrawn for a team-up. Now, Thrawn was on a mission to find potential allies to the Chiss, and he is intrigued by this other part of the galaxy, and by this war that's raging across thousands of
This
star
is probably
systems.
one of the
Long story
best
short,
breakdowns
Anakin saves
I've
Padme
seen.
and returns home just as somebody bombs the Jedi Temple, killing many, many people, and Ahsoka is framed for the crime. She is kicked out of the Jedi Order,
I remember this
but
part.
then she does some digging and discovers that her old friend Barriss Offee committed the crime because...
And my attack on the temple was an attack on what the Jedi have become. An army fighting for the dark side, fallen from the light that we once held so dear.
The Jedi Council invites Ahsoka back into the Order, but she is disillusioned by their prior decisions,
Yep.
and she leaves the Jedi, which makes
F
her
you
master,
guys.
Anakin, resent the Jedi Council for driving her away. Soon, Ahsoka is recruited by Bo-Katan Kryze, a former member of Death Watch and the sister of Duchess Satine. Bo-Katan asks for Ahsoka and the Republic to help her retake Mandalore from Darth Maul and his sect of evil Mandalorians. So, Ahsoka leads a special detachment of the 501st alongside her old buddy Rex to help Bo-Katan retake Mandalore. Bo-Katan's right hand is a woman named Ursa Wren, a warrior from a high Mandalorian house called, you guessed it, House Wren. Ahsoka helps retake Mandalore, even beating Darth Maul in a straight-up duel. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine has been kidnapped by Count Dooku, but he is rescued by Anakin Skywalker.
Good, Anakin, good. Kill him. Kill him now. Do it.
Afterwards, Palpatine pressures the Jedi Council to admit Anakin as his
I
personal
need to go back and watch those
representative,
movies
but
again.
You're on this
watch them.
council, but we do not grant you the rank
Mace
of master.
Windu.
What?
What?
And this makes Anakin resent the Council even more, especially when they ask him to spy on his mentor, his father figure, Palpatine. Now on top of that, he discovers that his wife, Padme, is pregnant, and he keeps dreaming of her dying in childbirth. Palpatine tells Anakin that the dark side of the Force could keep his wife from dying, and eventually, he puts it all together.
You're the Sith Lord.
So when the Jedi try to arrest Palpatine, Anakin saves his life, and then he turns to the dark side and gets a new name.
Darth Vader.
Palpatine then activates a control chip inside the clones' heads that make them turn on the Jedi as thousands of Jedi are killed throughout the galaxy, and Darth Vader leads an attack on the Jedi Temple that kills
Order
every
66.
Jedi, even the younglings. Except one of these younglings was an extremely powerful Force user named Grogu, who was rescued from the temple but later fell into the hands of certain underworld figures. Across the galaxy, a Jedi Master named Deepa Billaba sacrifices her life to save her Padawan, a boy named Caleb Doom. Meanwhile, Ahsoka survived Order 66 and even uses the Force to find and eliminate Rex's control chip. The two of them survive, even freeing Darth Maul, and they barely escape with their lives. Palpatine then frames the Jedi for starting the war and reorganizes the Republic into
Empire.
Darth Vader travels to a lava planet called Mustafar to finish off the Separatists, and he is pursued by Padme and Obi-Wan, who also survived the Jedi Purge. He force chokes Padme out of rage, and he thinks he killed her, and then he and Obi-Wan have an epic duel.
This is where he loses his hand, right?
Meanwhile, the great Jedi Master Yoda duels Palpatine, he loses, and then retreats into hiding. Obi-Wan defeats Anakin, cutting off his limbs and leaving him
badly burned.
Padme actually survived the Force choke long enough to give birth to twins, who she names Luke and Leia. The twins are kept secret and put into hiding. Obi-Wan gives Luke to Anakin's step-family on Tatooine, while a wealthy senator named Bail Organa offers to raise Leia. One of these kids got a much better deal than the other.
Yeah, right?
Anything good today?
A trade ship and an Aquilian Ranger.
Probably scouring for pirates.
That's what I said.
Meanwhile, Vader is placed in a new cybernetic suit and is fully a Sith Lord, and spends decades tracking down and murdering all the remaining Jedi. He is aided by other dark side users called Sith Inquisitors. They aren't powerful enough to be full-fledged Sith Lords, but they are very good at hunting down and killing Jedi Knights.
Oh my god.
Ahsoka, meanwhile, tries to live her life unnoticed, but soon she is tracked down by an Inquisitor who she defeats in a duel. Afterwards, Bail Organa recruits her into a rebellion against the Empire. Over the years, various rebel cells and factions appear throughout the galaxy. Some, like the one led by Saw Gerrera, are violent extremists.
Partisan alliance,
Andor,
sectorist,
my favorite so far.
Galaxy partitionist. They're lost. All of them lost.
And Ahsoka, using the codename Fulcrum, helps to coordinate these cells with the help of spies like Luthen Rael. So let's shift back to the unknown regions and talk about Thrawn.
Okay,
I will
let's go
be here
back.
to listen.
So Thrawn, as a tactician, is always more interested in results than he is in rules. Long story short, he violates Chiss rules of non-interference when he confronts an enemy called the Grisk. The Grisk are a major threat to the Chiss in the unknown regions, and we might even see them in the
show
Ahsoka
Star Trek
series.
just now?
And then the politicians strip him of his status and rank. Thrawn knows that the Chiss need allies in the other part of the galaxy, so he leaves the unknown regions to join the Empire. Now, because he doesn't
So
speak the language of the
15 BBY,
Imperials,
what's that mean?
An interpreter named Eli Vanto to become his personal aide. The two of them attend the Imperial Academy together as Thrawn swiftly ascends the ranks. Now, as Thrawn rises through the ranks of the Empire, his tactical brilliance is resented by his fellow commanders, who hate that Thrawn never seems to need their help. When he is elevated to the rank of Grand Admiral, he actually sends Eli Vanto into the unknown regions to join the Chiss Ascendancy as their first human officer. Meanwhile, the clone troopers are gradually phased out in favor of human troopers as the Empire begins to crack down on every planet. On planet Ryloth, the Imperial sees control
haven't watched Bad Batch
the
yet.
freedom fighter Camp Syndulla, so he flees the planet with his wife and young daughter Hera. On Mandalore, the Empire forced Bo-Katan from power and recruited Mandalorians into the Imperial Academies. Ursa Wren's daughter, Sabine Wren, is a brilliant scientist.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Who invents a weapon that actually destroys Mandalorian Beskar armor. Fearing that it would be used against her people, she drops out of the academy to become a bounty hunter and eventually a rebel, much to the dishonor of her family who have sworn loyalty to the Empire. The Empire also massacred a race of people called the Lasat, nearly causing them to go extinct. The attack was commanded by Lieutenant Callus, who carried out this order reluctantly, but more on him in a bit. All of this leads to the creation of the rebel cells named the Spectres, later known as Phoenix Squadron. They consist of Zeb, a Lasat who is one of the last of his kind, and then there's Sabine Wren, daughter of Ursa Wren, and that little Padawan I talked about who was saved by the Bad Batch grew up and became Kanan Jarrus. Kanan is in a romantic relationship with the leader of the Spectres, a grown-up Hera Syndulla, who is also one of the best star pilots in the galaxy.
And Chopper.
Oh yeah, and Chopper, and their ship is called the Ghost. Hera takes her orders directly from an agent called Fulcrum, aka Ahsoka Tano. So the Spectres are based on planet Lothal, and as they're carrying out attacks on the planet, they encounter a street rat named Ezra Bridger. Kanan soon realizes that Ezra is Force sensitive. Even though he left the Jedi life behind him, he agrees to train Ezra in the ways of the Force. But two new Jedi working together attracts the attention of the Sith Grand Inquisitor, the leader of the Emperor's dark side wielding task force who is tasked with hunting down Jedi Knights after the Purge. At first, Kanan struggles to teach Ezra because he himself never completed his training. Then he and Ezra visit a hidden Jedi temple on Lothal, one of the very few in the galaxy that the Empire never destroyed. Kanan gets some advice from Master Yoda, who is still living in exile, while Ezra finds a kyber crystal for his very own lightsaber/blaster hybrid. This is when we also learn about Ezra's special ability to use the Force to talk to and control animals, which is going to be very important.
Like Grogu.
Then, Kanan is captured by the Grand Inquisitor and is taken to Mustafar, where he'll be tortured in the palace of Darth Vader.
There is evil there that does not sleep.
But the Spectres carry off a daring rescue with help from other rebel cells. And all these cells are uniting together for the first time. The Grand Inquisitor is killed, but the success of these two Jedi attract the attention of Darth Vader. And this is where Ahsoka joins the crew. Vader fights Ezra and Kanan and nearly kills them both.
Kanan? What was that?
And then, later on during space combat, Ahsoka connects with Vader's mind and they learn the truth about each other.
The apprentice lives.
Oh, man.
And the team encounters even more Inquisitors as they're driven off Lothal and they realize that they need to find a new base. Ahsoka leads them to our old pal Rex and a couple other clones who remove their control chips because these clones know potential bases from the Clone Wars that the Empire can't find. Now Kanan, understandably, doesn't like clones.
The clones, the ones we Jedi fought side by side with, suddenly turned and betrayed us.
Yeah.
I watched them kill my master.
But they overcome their differences, fight off the Empire, and Rex joins the rebellion, reuniting with Ahsoka. The Ghost crew encounter the hyperspace-traveling space whales called Purgil. Ezra makes a connection to them with the Force and understands that they're just trying to migrate and raise their whale families. Hera also returns to Ryloth to reconcile with her father, and like all of us, when she goes home, that accent slips out a little bit.
I am not wasting my life. I help people. I lead ships into battle. I am part of something bigger.
She inherits her family's Kalikori, a piece of art that details her family's history. Now the rebels help Zeb's people, the Lasat, find a new homeworld after Kallus and the Empire devastated their planet. But soon after that, Zeb and Kallus are stranded together on a planet where Kallus tells him the truth, that he did not know the Empire was going to destroy Zeb's home planet, and he has been haunted by that day for years.
It wasn't supposed to be a massacre, but I realized the Empire wanted to make an example.
Zeb ends up letting Kallus go and the two warriors part with a kind of mutual understanding. Meanwhile, Kanan and Ezra narrowly escape two Inquisitors, so they decide with Ahsoka to
now
return to the Jedi
gotten way
temple
past where I knew about
reconnect
Rebels
with the
now.
spirit of Yoda or some
I'm just learning as we go. I'm just trying to absorb all this in right now.
And he has finally made a full Jedi Knight. Ahsoka's suspicions about Anakin are confirmed.
Do you know what I've become?
And then Yoda tells Ezra that the key to defeating the Sith is in a world called Malachor.
Malachor? Who's Malachor?
God, what an idiot. Chopper helps the rebels to find a new hidden base off all Imperial maps, and they call it
Chopper Base.
And then some major stuff happens. The Jedi go to Malachor, which is the site of an old Sith temple. They get separated, and Ezra runs into an older Darth Maul, and he earns Ezra's trust. The Inquisitors show up, everybody duels, and then Maul reveals the temple itself is a giant Sith weapon, but he needed the help of an apprentice, Ezra, to help him open it. Maul fights Kanan and blinds him. Maul and Ezra activate the weapon with the Sith holocron as Kanan has to learn to fight blind to defeat Maul. Meanwhile, Ahsoka races to the top of the temple to stop Ezra, and guess who flies in on a TIE fighter?
Your mom?
Darth frickin' Vader.
I don't fear you.
then you will die braver than most.
Ezra is outgunned, but Ahsoka shows up and square goes against her former master. Ezra is all tempted to use the Sith superweapon to defeat the Sith, but Kanan talks him out of it and Ezra grabs the Sith holocron. Meanwhile, Ahsoka damages Vader's mask, leading to this heartbreaking moment.
Ahsoka.
Anakin.
As the temple crumbles around them, Ezra is helpless to save Ahsoka's life.
We know she's still alive.
And now it's 1 year later and Ezra is a growing teenage boy. He's way more powerful and has a green lightsaber now, and sometimes he's getting a little too close to the dark side. Ezra and Sabine develop a close connection, a really strong friendship that might even be romantic. Kanan meets an ancient Force being called the Bendu who teaches him how to use the Force to fight blind. But meanwhile, the Spectres have become Phoenix Squadron, and their greatest foe comes to Lothal, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
And
there he is.
Rebels apart piece by piece. They'll be the architects of their own destruction.
Now at this point, Thrawn has become the most brilliant tactician in the Empire, even recently teaming up with Darth Vader to stop an evil race called the Gris from threatening the Chiss ascendancy. So Thrawn defeats the rebels again and again and again, and each time they narrowly escape as he gets closer to finding their base. He even pursues them to Ryloth, where he studies Hera's family's art to understand and defeat her. Thrawn learns that there is a spy called Fulcrum hiding in Imperial command and vows to root them out.
I'm the spy.
Nope, it's not Hux.
Nope.
It's our old friend, Agent Kallus.
Wait.
Yep.
Kallus is Fulcrum? How does that even make sense?
Maul then later forces Ezra to go to his home planet of Dathomir, so when Maul and Ezra complete their vision, they realize that they both need to seek out Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. Now, Obi-Wan has spent the past 18 years watching over Anakin's son Luke as he was raised by his step-uncle and aunt Owen and Beru.
Hello there.
There was a brief period of time, though, where Obi-Wan left for about a week to rescue Leia from some people. Then he had a rematch with Anakin, discovered he was Darth Vader, and the whole thing was like very heartbreaking, and for some reason, he let Darth Vader live again.
Good job.
I watch Obi-Wan.
Anyways, Ezra finds Obi-Wan, and the Jedi Master basically tells him to walk on his own path, and then Maul and Obi-Wan have their final duel. Afterwards, Kenobi assures Maul that the boy he's watching over, Luke, will grow up to destroy the Sith.
He will avenge us.
The rebels need access to a key area of space which is controlled by a sect of Mandalorians called the Protectors. Their leader is named Finn Rau, a former guard to Duchess Satine. Rau has been forced to swear loyalty to the Empire. You see, Mandalore is now ruled by a Mandalorian Imperial Viceroy named Gar Saxon, who actually served under Darth Maul in the Clone Wars right here. So, when Sabine was on Dathomir looking for Ezra, she found the Darksaber that I talked about earlier.
Oh, that's how she gets the Darksaber.
Mandalorian leadership. Sabine now wants to use the Darksaber to confront Gar Saxon, so Kanan trains her how to use it.
We were talking about on the podcast the other night.
Her with some Mandalorian tactics, she is ready to return home.
To save everyone. My mother! My father! My brother! Everything I did was for family!
Then Sabine duels Gar Saxon, beats him, but then he turns on her and she almost dies until her mom kills the Imperial Viceroy. And just like that, Clan Wren and a bunch of other Mandalorians are rebelling against the Empire. Sabine decides to stay with her people and doesn't rejoin the Rebel Squadron just yet. Now, around this time, Mon Mothma goes too far when she criticizes the Emperor, and they force her to leave the Senate. A warrant.
This with Andor's happening?
So Phoenix Squadron brings her to the Rebel base where
when did Andor take place in all this?
For the Rebel Alliance, calling for all the factions to join together.
This is our rebellion.
Thrawn works out that Kallus is the spy, and he arrests him. This sets a trap for the other rebels.
It's a trap!
They're almost defeated, but then Sabine and the Mandalorians show up. Kallus escapes with the rebels, gets a dreamy new haircut.
Your haircut? Notice you've copied my beard.
The rebels join Sabine to help overthrow the Empire's presence on Mandalore. They're also joined by Bo-Katan Kryze as other factions come to their side against Gar Saxon. But the Empire has rebuilt Sabine's machine that destroys Mandalorian armor. But Sabine's able to reverse the machine so it'll work against Stormtrooper armor. Sabine then gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, who is now the new leader of a free Mandalore.
And then she loses it.
Happily ever after.
Afterwards, Sabine goes back to join the team at their new base on Yavin 4 as they find evidence that the Empire is building a super weapon with
Death Star
crystals. Then Phoenix Squadron decides that they have to leave the Rebel Alliance and return to Lothal so they can stop Thrawn's TIE Defender factory from being built. But the larger Rebel Alliance cannot commit the amount of resources it takes to retake the entire planet. So on Lothal, Ezra meets a large white loth wolf that talks to him, saying, And on the planet, they're pursued by Thrawn's top assassin, a Nogri death commando named Rook. Rook and the Imperials have them cornered until the Loth Wolves lead them into a tunnel that mystically brings them to the other side of the planet. So there's some weird Force stuff happening on Lothal, which is why the Jedi built their temple there thousands of years ago.
They did say Lothal will come up a lot
against the Imperial base, but Thrawn decimates her forces, again using her family's artwork to understand her tactics.
To me, they're not merely trophies, but symbols that truly represent some of my greatest adversaries.
Afterwards, Hera is captured, and then the wolf talks to Kanan.
I understand. What must I do?
And Kanan sees a vision of his future. He leads a mission to rescue Hera. They get romantic.
I love you.
And then he sacrifices his life to save the crew. This also destroys the refinery on Lothal and shuts down the TIE Defender factory. So the wolf, who may or may not be
we talked about that in the last one.
The wolf tells Ezra to go back to that Jedi temple, where the Empire is excavating it, while a Sith historian has uncovered a mural of the brother, the sister, and the father.
And that means something.
Ezra, it's art. Everything has a meaning.
Ezra uses the Force to move their hands into a certain position, and then a bunch of wolf drawings run in a circle, and Ezra enters the world between worlds.
What's the world between worlds?
Oh, that's gonna be something that we see in
space and time. Inside Ezra hears voices from the past, present, and future.
In that trailer.
And then Ahsoka's spirit owl Morai leads him to a portal where he sees Ahsoka's final moments in the duel against Vader, and then he saves her life.
Time travel!
The two of them keep Palpatine from entering this realm, and then Ahsoka stays behind to learn more about the Force and stuff like that. And then the Rebels launch their final plan to retake Lothal. There's a big battle, the Purge will show up, and then Ezra uses the Force to communicate with the space whales to teleport him and Thrawn far, far away, presumably into the unknown regions. Afterwards, Hera becomes a high commander in the Rebel Alliance, and she has Kanan's baby. Now, shortly after this, the Empire unveils the super weapon it worked so hard to create. The Death Star, a planet-killing weapon. A group of Rebel spies leads a daring mission to steal its plant, and for the first time, the Rebel Alliance launches a major attack against the Empire.
The Empire.
The Rebels recover the plans with Darth Vader hot on their heels and barely get them into the hands of Vader's secret daughter, Leia. Then A New Hope happens, Luke meets his friends, destroys the Death Star, you know all that stuff, let's fast forward.
Yeah. You know all this.
However, during this time, the Empire cracks down on Mandalore. Bo-Katan surrenders the Darksaber to Imperial Moff Gideon, but Gideon chooses to devastate the planet, scattering sects of Mandalorians across the galaxy. The war against the Empire goes on, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and the Rebel Alliance is victorious across the galaxy. Afterwards, Sabine and Ahsoka embark on a mission to find Ezra and Thrawn, off to the unknown regions of the galaxy. But the Empire initiates the Emperor's contingency plan called Operation Cinder. This will destroy Imperial world's resources, and then the best of the best Imperials will travel to the unknown regions to build a better empire.
The First Order!
The remaining Imperial forces are soundly defeated at the Battle of Jakku.
Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
And afterwards, the Chancellor of the newly restored Republic, Mon Mothma, signs a peace treaty with the Empire that allows planets to stay under Imperial rule if they choose to.
The negotiations were short.
But it says they cannot have militaries. She then orders 90% of the Republic's military forces to be dismantled.
That was not smart. That
Nope.
was not smart.
Meanwhile, Imperial warlords and garrisons still roam the Outer Rim, vying for power against each other. Din Djarin has grown up to be a feared bounty hunter who takes a mission to capture
that's
Grogu.
all that.
He learns that Grogu is Force sensitive and becomes attached to the little guy, eventually freeing him from Imperials. The two of them go on the run, as Din vows to deliver him to his own people, the Jedi. But instead, he finds Ahsoka.
Yep.
Bo-Katan sent me. We need to talk.
I hope it's about him.
Ahsoka is hunting down a woman named Morgan Elsbeth, who I'm telling you may be one of those dark side wielding Night Sisters we talked about earlier. With a little bit of help from Din Djarin, she defeats Elsbeth in combat and asks her,
"Where is your master? Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?"
Afterwards, Grogu is taken by Moff Gideon's forces because they're trying to use Grogu's blood to create Force-sensitive clones. Din gets some help from a resurrected bounty hunter named Boba Fett and his loyal second, Fennec Shand, and then all of them team up with Bo-Katan to take down Moff Gideon and save Grogu. Then Luke Skywalker shows up, saves their lives, and recruits Grogu as the first student of his new Jedi Academy. So Din rejoins his people, but he misses Grogu and he visits Ahsoka at the new Jedi Temple. After training with Luke for a while, Grogu gets new powers, but he wants to be with the Mandalorian, and the two of them reunite to help Boba Fett take the place of Jabba the Hutt as the leader of the crime syndicate on Tatooine. Now, various Imperial moles have actually infiltrated the New Republic.
Yeah, we know all this from Mandalorian and stuff.
Shadow Council. The Shadow Council is hoping to clone Emperor Palpatine, but
I will say, I'm getting a better
understanding
of the timeline of where everything fits together.
So the Mandalorians retake their world from Moff Gideon, Bo-Katan is made leader of their people, and Din and Grogu settle down to freelance for the New Republic, maybe alongside our old pal Zeb.
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Well, guys, that's the entire history of Thrawn, Ahsoka, and Star Wars.
Oh, nice. That was probably one of the best breakdowns that I've ever watched. Good job, Ryan. Screen Crush. The link will be down in the description for this. This gave me so much information. It filled in some of the gaps I did not know about. Things I had no clue about. It really set the timeline for me, so I have a much better knowledge of where we're going to be at when we watch Ahsoka tonight. But yeah, this was really good. Definitely going to do more stuff from Screen Crush. Watching his channel here and there, but definitely going to deep dive more into him. So make sure you go over to his channel and give him a like and subscribe, show him support. He's a way bigger channel than I am, but you know, shout out to him putting this out here for us. But yeah, I'm excited for the Ahsoka. I'm gonna watch it tonight and look for my review on that, and we'll talk about it on probably some of the shows I'm on later. Until next time, guys, you have a good one, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.